An American Tale, Fievel Goes West. Back in the late 1980s, Steven Spielberg was in a phase where he was obsessed with animation. Not so much to direct his own animated feature, but enough to go and produce some big-name movies at the time like An American Tale, The Land Before Time, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, on top of producing some animated series with Warner Brothers afterwards. In fact, he even crafted his own animation studio with Amblimation, where the short-lived studio would go on to craft films such as We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, Balto, and an animated adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats that never saw the light of day. However, Spielberg wanted his first movie under the studio to star what would become the mascot of Amblimation, Fievel from An American Tale. It was supposed to be directed by the first film's director, Don Bluth, but creative differences made them split. But now that Fievel finds himself in the Old West, will the mouse bring out the big guns for his next adventure? Or should the poster of the film actually be a wanted poster? Let's find out. The story. Now that Fievel settled into his new home in America, the family now moves out, again, into the Old West for new opportunities. Sounds a lot like the first film, right? Well, it's not really. Then again, I'm not sure if it knows what it wants to be. Might as well start this off by mentioning how one of the biggest issues with the film is that it has a lack of focus. It does have a simple main plot where Fievel discovers that the cats are tricking the mice to gain their trust so that they would later be turned into mouse burgers, and now he has to stop them, but it doesn't know what to do in between. It tries to incorporate side plots like Tanya's dream of becoming a singer and Tiger's journey to catch up with the Mousekewitz, and yet they end up either having no point to the story and have no use to Fievel, or they end up dragging the plot with gags and action scenes so that the length of the film can be feature length. And considering how this is only 75 minutes long, the filmmakers were lucky to pad the extra time in the movie at the last minute. Speaking of the gags, a lot of the humor is meant to be appealing to kids that's mostly slapstick comedy, especially with the bits involving Tiger. Sure, they could be considered juvenile for the most part, and there are plenty of moments that feel like they were taken straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, but I will give them that they can have their enjoyable moments. However, another problem with the story is actually with how it ends. I won't be spoiling what happens, but let's just say that the film has a little too happy of an ending. Like, not only is the big problem solved, but also everybody got their dream come true. Not to say that it's bad, it's just that it makes the movie feel heavily sugar-coated, and it tailored itself to be as kid-friendly as possible. In the first film, Fievel ended up getting lost without an idea where to go. In the sequel, the same thing happened to the story. The animation. Of course, this is no Don Bluth animation, but it certainly looks nice nonetheless. What's interesting to note about the animation is how it is noticeable the differences are, but not too different from what was given before. Like, in the first film, the designs of the characters are more rounded, and their movements are more emphasized in the subtlety. But in the sequel, the designs are narrow and the characters are more into big and dramatic movements. Maybe in a visual standpoint it won't feel like the original, but the professional craftsmanship put into it does make it forgivable and can place it somewhere close to Bluth's accomplishment. Looking into it on its own, the biggest highlight of the feature is actually the action scenes that it frequently delivers. Yes, I have stated before that they're mostly used for just padding the feature and don't serve much of a purpose, but the way they're animated do make it feel exciting. It gives the movie a high energy and the sensation of peril that feels like the characters are in danger. It also helps how it's happening all around with the use of moving camera shots that's uncommon for hand-drawn, even for the early 1990s.
It's too tough, kid. Get out while you still can.
Okay, toodaloo.
Hey, Tiger.
Now, of course, I cannot forget to mention about the Western aspect of the film, which it did manage to visually capture. The backgrounds and colors emphasize a hot and deserted feeling, and the general design of the characters, like the cats, have a cartoonishly tough look with a variety of Western costumes put onto them, while the mice have a more innocent look with costumes that have them look like they're from anywhere but the West. As for the character animation, while it does lean more into the cartoon than in the original, the movements are still smooth and bring out a more human-like tone. It may be different than what we had before, but it is nice that the animation still came out strong. The characters. One thing you should never do with this film is watching it back to back with the original. Otherwise, you end up feeling completely lost and feel like you've just entered another dimension when seeing the characters again. The biggest problem with the recurring characters is that there is little to no trace to how they were in the first film and left you with more questions right from the start. Like, when did Fievel become obsessed with cowboys? When did Tanya become so passionate about singing? And wait, Tiger lost his girlfriend? When did Tiger get a girlfriend?
I thought things would be better in America. In Russia, my violins were famous. At least we never went hungry.
Oh, wait, hold on, I'm sorry, but didn't your sign say that you were a tailor? The opening makes it feel like there's an entire movie's worth of context that's completely missing. And yet, as the feature would progress, the characters end up feeling flat. Written-wise, there's very little that the cast would offer. Fievel is just the kid that wants to be a cowboy, Tanya just wants to be the singing superstar, Tiger is the comic relief, Miss Kitty is the strong supportive girl, Kadar Wall is the gentleman-like antagonist that's tricking the mice, and Wiley Burp is Fievel's washed-up hero. Like the last character I mentioned, they're all a bunch of old and tired tropes that are easy to know what they are going to do throughout the rest of the film. However, the one good thing I can point out regarding the characters is actually the voice acting. If there's any reason why any of these characters would be likable, it's because their voices would deliver a strong personality, like Dom DeLuise, Amy Irving, a crazy high-pitched John Lovitz, and John Cleese, who gave the villain a suave yet sinister tone in his performance.
So, I must exercise both willpower and finesse.
But even with the strong performances, it doesn't save the characters feeling generic and even forgetting about what continuity means. An American Tale, Fievel Goes West on his own, is a lot like how it is as a sequel. It's got some good ideas, but it certainly has no idea what it's doing. It does deliver some great animation, nice voice acting, a little enjoyable humor, and a small amount of songs that are sweet, but it also suffers from a poorly executed script with a confused and sugar-coated story, one-dimensional characters, and connects so little with the first film that it makes it feel like it was meant to be its own movie, but then the filmmakers renamed the characters just to have it be associated with An American Tale. My best recommendation with this film is if you're looking for some simple kid-friendly fun. If you want something safe, cute, enjoyable, and quick, then this might fit the bill. However, if you're expecting a legitimate sequel to An American Tale, then you might end up being disappointed. Sure, it may not be all that great, but then again, at least we could say that it's one of the better Don Bluth sequels. Hey guys, this is AniMat's. I just want to start things off by giving a huge thanks to Thomas Richardson for his amazing support on Patreon, which allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, where he asked me to go and review An American Tale, Fievel Goes West. And upon my research into the history of the film, there actually is something that is very fascinating, where it does have another connection to a much bigger and honestly a much more successful animated feature, which is actually Beauty and the Beast. Yes, the 1991 Disney classic. And there are two reasons why Fievel Goes West actually does have a connection with that film. Number one is actually the dangerous fact that it was released at the same time as Beauty and the Beast. Now, with Fievel Goes West, it didn't necessarily make a lot of money at the box office. It wasn't necessarily a flop. It did make a total of $40 million, but the fact that you could tell that it really got overshadowed by Beauty and the Beast. Like, people really were paying attention to that film over just a little an American Tail sequel, you know? So really, that could explain how is it that Fievel Goes West didn't necessarily become as big as the original Un-American Tail. But then again, there is also another reason, a second reason, why is it that this movie actually would have a connection with Beauty and the Beast, and that is actually with John Cleese. Now, as you guys probably know, in this film, John Cleese is the voice of Cadar Wall. But before he accepted the job, he actually did have a big decision to do. Because he was pretty much stuck between choosing either this role, or he would have gone with Disney and could have been the voice of Cogsworth. And as you can guess already, he already decided to go and be the voice of Cadar Wall, but you can pretty much tell that that was a huge mistake in his career. Now, not to say that John Cleese would have known that Beauty and the Beast would become the legendary hit that we know today, but yeah, like, this does seem like the kind of thing that anybody would feel a bit of regret afterwards. Now, not to undermine John Cleese's performance, saying that, yeah, he made a bad choice and he sucked in there. I will give it that John Cleese did do a good job in terms of his performance as Cadar Wall, but, you know, it does make you wonder, like, what would happen if we live in a different universe where John Cleese would be known to be the voice of Cogsworth instead of David Ogden Stiers, you know? Like, when you do think about it, yeah, John Cleese would actually be a great fit as Cogsworth, but nowadays, that doesn't seem to be the case, and now we do live in an age where it has to be David Ogden Stiers as Cogsworth. And maybe he would have gotten a second chance, but no, it turns out to be Ian McKellen doing the remake as well. So, yeah, I thought I would point out that little interesting connection between Beauty and the Beast and An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. It's a little bit, in a way, like a similarity between All Dogs Go to Heaven and The Little Mermaid. And yeah, I guess the outcome also was kind of similar, where the Disney film pretty much destroyed something that was related to Don Bluth. Okay, so with all that said and done, we're pretty much done with An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, and now it is time that we shall go and move on to the animation hat. And before I get things started, I would just like to say that if you guys would like to be like Thomas and you want to go and get some amazing rewards while supporting me at the same time, and some of these rewards are also fantastic. Like, one thing that you will be guaranteed to get is actually watch my videos before anybody else would. Then if you want to do that, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. However, at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and go and pick our next movie right over here and see what film awaits us today. If I could pick one, actually. This is getting a little bit tricky now, but am I even getting it higher? Hold on. Okay, I think I got... Okay, yeah. Yeah, I got a bit of cleanup to do, but I do got a movie nonetheless. So, the next review shall be... Whoops. What the? Nothing. What is this? Oh. Oh, wow. Yes. Oh my god. Now, this is gonna make a very fascinating review. Oh, this definitely will. Okay. Now, there have been a lot of different talks about it and a lot of different subjects that goes into this movie. And despite all the different metaphors and different messages that this movie would say, pretty much a lot of people would agree that we would remember this as one of the most beloved romance films ever made. And it's not even with two people or two animals or whatever. Just put in two machines and apparently it's love everywhere.
You got a lot on your chest. Well, you can come as my guest. So come on down. Come on down.
Hopeless.